go into obscurity anyways. um,
Excuse me for one moment.
the only real reason to do any of this is really just because you enjoy doing it.
Because what's happening right now is I'm actually on the back end, listening to a guy that's a fellow artist and a contemporary, and he's actually a bro, whether he thinks he's a bro or not, and that's Gabe Leonard. And he he's something else, and I'm actually happy to have known and at least monitored his art doings from way back when. He's actually really excellent because he found a what I would say a generalized particular stylistic that is so great. Like he and I, I was already on Venice Beach in '97, and this guy Jackson Collins shows up. And he's this black fella, and he takes me back to this garage that he has about 2.5 blocks off of Venice Beach, and he guides me because I showed up to this guy, and I'm like, man, I don't. What are you doing to sell out here on the Venice Boardwalk? And like he just told me like, hey, you go here and you get your comic book plastic from this comic book store, and you go here to get your prints made, and what you do is you just paint, and then you get prints of your painting, and then you go out to the boardwalk. Well, I had already been an in-house illustrator. I've already graduated from college. I'd already accomplished certain technical feats by that time, and even career feats by that time. But nonetheless, I was back down there again after 1997. I mean, I went down there in '97 because my first high school girlfriend, she um, God, how to put it? We had gone out in high school, and then earlier in the '90s, we were going out again. Now she had an abortion. We both had an abortion. We agreed to that. One, I was 20, she was 21. Always dating older women. I am not really, not even wantingly necessarily, because I'm still not a baby daddy. And why, if any of you ladies out there want a baby daddy who has a mustache like this and gets along good for probably the next 20 years, hit me up. That being said, though, I'm down on Venice Beach in '97 because my high school girlfriend showed up to where I was an in-house illustrator, not the location, but showed up at my the barn I was living in at the time, and that had so severely disrupted me psychologically because of the history that we had, and that I mean, I thought bygones were bygones and that things were done. I didn't know how much my heartstrings were tied, but she got in there. I'm actually probably more emotional than I put off, and that's why I'm wearing this light blue metrosexual shirt of this unholy wild child. Feel free to comment if my mic's bad. The people that are currently watching. That being said, okay, so then I'm down there for 90 and 97 for 4 years. I'm learning out how this is done, how to sell on the boardwalk, where to go to get your shit. So you're out there. So I'm painting a bunch of landscapes, and then people like Harry Perry, the guy that's kind of got that Baha'i looking, or that particular subsection of Islamic hat, and he's out there singing la 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 la, and that guy was interesting. He once told me on how to cure my lady problems was that you just got to show him your dick. which would turn out to be bad advice. And then several years later, it turns out that he not only didn't recall saying that to me, he outrightly got offended that I suggested that he had. But it didn't matter. It was years later. He had matured. I had matured. Everyone had matured. All the dozens of people, the amazing people on the boardwalk in not 1997. At this point, it's 2000. I then, after 1997, I was running away from this woman. In 2001, I was running towards, 2003, I was running towards the woman. Again, my high school sweetheart, Tracy. And, but it was almost this, it's not an unrequited love, and it's not maybe even love at all. It was more like a kind of a like, well, I think I like her, even though I'm utterly attracted to this other woman. I kind of I'm going to go out with this woman. And I felt, in one way, I thought, God, I'm really playing myself down. And in college, even though she was a year older than me, she didn't go to college until after I had graduated. And then she shows up and goes and becomes the valedictorian in my illustration department for her year of graduation, which was roughly 4 years after I had graduated. So the girl herself was fascinated by me, almost addicted to me. I mean, I loved her, and she was she was pregnant and so forth. But anyway, let me get up here to Gabe. Gabe, he's this guy, right? And there was all these guys. There was there was Jimmy. There was this guy named, he's currently named Falcon, Mr. Falcon. And anyway, the point being is there and tons, gazillions, Lolo, gazillions actually of other characters that were floating around on Venice Beach in 2001. 2003 to 4, and I was actually competition for Gabe because Gabe knew I was an in-house illustrator, and he what studied in back east, I think, at this, maybe I'm wrong, right, but this Columbia University, and he was under this professor and this illustrator that did this oil subtractive technique named what was it named? It was named an oil subtractive technique, where you lay down C.F. Payne was his name. C.F. Payne. He often did illustrations for Time magazine. He was one of Gabe's instructors. I had this guy named Glenn Edwards. I also had this Chris Terry fella. I had a couple other guys that were actually impactful, but for whatever reason right now I'm not remembering their names. Anyway, I'm out selling on the boardwalk. I was already there in 97. I'm back again in the early 2000s. This Gabe guy shows up. He is also a trained, college educated illustrator. And at first he kind of shows up. Then things got a little bit more about a competition. And then I was actually down there at that time, very, very depressed, but I had also executed what I considered my best work, and I was leaning on my laurels, meaning my princess paintings were painted way back when. And, how are you guys seeing this? Are any of you guys seeing this? Probably not. Anyway, I was actually just feeling like shit about what I haven't done in the art career because of the other choices that I made in life. And of course, I'm all over the map with my story here. It's not one of my fortes to stay on the topic or not zigzag. Better. Anyway, okay, so and then I got this lady staying in the back. She's playing music in the back, so you might hear some of that shit. You might hear me yell at her like I got a wife beater on in a later time, but probably not. Anyway, so I'm out there painting, and this guy, he's painting, and he's got this kind of figurative work. It's a little bit more fantasy, but it's kind of just more like characters from like restaurants, a lot of people eating, because he was kind of a fatty at the time, and he ate a lot. And anyway, at the same time, though, he was out there on the boardwalk, and he was then my competition. He often even refers to his competition, the heavy competition on Venice Beach. Well, I was one of those characters that was the heavy competition. Thing is, it didn't matter. Art wise, it didn't matter. After I lost my noggin and I was fully, what do you call it? Um, it didn't matter what anyone did. But he still, boy, his stylistic of art was it was a heavy impression on me. Not at that time, but later on, because he really took off. I fell down, go boom. He took off, went up. Um, he was kind of starting to bloom when he came into Salt Lake in an arts festival, and he wanted to meet up, but I had busted my feet up at the time. This is many years later, by the way, and I was up in Seattle, so I kind of missed him. And I don't know, maybe he took it personally or whatnot, but he and I we're not super chummy. He's doing his own thing, but there was this easily a quad of artists, O and Hersiak and Gabe and Falcon, that were kind of like when there was gunplay on the boardwalk. It actually surprised me, being a Utah boy and being an egalitarian, that everybody, in one way, they kind of grouped together by race immediately to just kind of see what was going on when there was definite gunplay happening. It was just an interesting phenomena that I wasn't expecting at the time. But all these guys that I mentioned, other than Jackson Collins, he's a black fella, these guys are all white. Oh, it looks a little Jewish though. But yeah, so we're down there in Venice Beach, and Gabe's sitting out one day, and I make the first sale. He's like, yeah, he's like 25 yards from me, and he was so upset. And then I made another couple sales before him, and that he was a little cocky even at the time. And apparently he was just kind of lounging around his Pasadena apartment and not really producing. But he was good. He was good. I was like, I didn't mind him. I didn't mind Gabe. I like Gabe, and Gabe was competition, and Gabe was an illustrator, and I like Gabe. And yet at the same time, um, I don't know. Sometimes people get on these, what do you call them? Like my train was a contextual variability, meaning that I would start behaving differently than I had in the past, at too great of a variance, meaning a difference, than I normally had prior. And so the difference itself, to change too often, to change your style, your technique, your identity, your sound, your ways, your mode, your thoughts, too often can be a huge detriment, especially when one of the greatest things that people should keep in mind in a world of variability: consistency is key. Consistency is key. And even though I'm not consistent in my first love's relationship, or my second, or even the woman, Carrie, oh, Carrie, I should have married you when I was 35. I didn't. Um, and Jan, she says I'm the love of her life. And yeah, she chased me up to Seattle when I was in a secondary recovery. It's like my life got folded a few times. God, what do you call those things? They're like super thin waffles. I'm not even gonna say that this isn't what's happening right now, right? Okay, so I'm 15 minutes in. Here we go. So the thing about what you learn in college about art and consistency of painting and feeling obligated, if you're a successful artist, you should naturally feel, I believe, as Gabe does, a compulsion to fight with, but eventually overcome yourself and just produce art. Just produce it, even if you're not inspired. When I'm selling art and people ask me, "Hey, what inspires you?" Now Gabe's answer to that question is, well, everything. And for me, I just say like, oh, heartache and drugs. But mine's more like an illicit. It's not true. It's not false, but it's more just about it being a punchline. Where Gabe is busy intuiting his world, but then yeah, at some point you lock down into a style. Eventually, all points lead to Rome, meaning everything gets reduced to one thing. But then I'm like, well, wait, that's not true, right? Like the variability of my artistic maneuvers or even my relationship status has never actually been boiled down to oneness has been a type of antithetical. um it's a oneness with best friends, or I don't know. I mean, certain absolutes are certain. There's a oneness in the absoluteness of something that you're convicted to, right? So I do have to admit, I would say that even though my style did not fixate necessarily in one way, um like I say, is consistency is key for the successful artist. And so I say that by admitting that in fact I'm not a successful artist. I'm a sub-successful sub successful artist. I'm supposed to set up some Odyssey cards, start working on some sort of tarot something, and I have like 78 days to do 78 cards. But anyway, back to Gabe and the boardwalk and the guys and the whatnot. This guy has both been an influence and an inspiration. I remember one time and this was before I was broke, way back in the day. So like 2003, I'm over at O's place. And he's about 15 blocks, I think, off of Venice Beach. Gabe lives in Pasadena. I live a half block from Venice Beach. I just roll out and I'm on the damn boardwalk and I had Jimmy as my roommate or apartment mate on Thornton Avenue. But in any case, so I'm over at O's, and this is actually on O's birthday. O testifies that this is the day that I hit him in my documentary, punched him, and that he picked up a bicycle, which he did, and he hovered it over me, and I looked like, to him, he says, that I was just too into it. Meaning that I was just too into, yeah, fuck me up. Yeah, ruin me. Because I was on a little bit of everything's going to shit sort of notion about my universe at the time, because this was shortly thereafter my second abortion with the high school girlfriend, after when we were 26 and she showed up to Northern Utah when I was an in-house illustrator and ruined the relationship I was in, meaning she emotively discombobulated me enough such that, as opposed to choosing one over the other, an old love over the current. God, it's weird to say that I loved Sherry. I loved hanging out with Sherry. I don't know to the extent that I would say I was like absolutely in love with Sherry, but I liked her enough. Like a lot of people, even like Jan. I like Jan a lot. Jen was a redheaded lady that I had abandoned when I went up to Seattle. But anyway, so the point is I'm still back in Venice Beach at this time. At this time, I was throwing my ass and my whole universe to the wind. I was using anything. I mean, other than injecting, I was using it, right? So even the Doctora flower found in Venice, California, people have planted this tropical wonderland of the mind, a bubblegum taffy of psychedelic yum yum called the Doctora plant. And I won't paint the flower now, even though I might be able to, because I'm being delicate with this particular piece, as you guys can see, yes. Wow. In any case, So I'm in O's backyard. It's O's birthday. We're smoking weed. And Gabe doesn't smoke weed. Dave, this is pre-Gabe learning how to fight Gabe's actually a very kind of short guy. He was kind of stocky, and he was painting all these paintings of people eating hamburgers and fries and people at diners and stuff. And I guess that's what he did. And his stuff would look great. But anyway, so we're there, and I remember because we'd already built up this history of being like boardwalk competitors, but we're all like friends because we're all like artists. But he was more Puritan, and he wasn't one of the cool kids that used drugs at the time. Where Jimmy, who was a decade younger than me, and probably 6 years younger than Gabe, he was using shit like it was going out of style, like fucking drugs like a kid in a candy store. And so I just jumped on his bandwagon. But anyway, Gabe shows up at O's. O has no problem at the time smoking weed. I came from Utah. I was the puritanical, like leftover Mormon Puritan. Not that I was ever Mormon, but just the society. Plus my parents' wish, that I wasn't like necessarily a druggie, even though I have 2 pain patches, thank you very much, on my back currently. And I am smoking a vape, thank you very much. And I am working on 3 out of 4 beers, never buy more than 4. Otherwise, I'm a complete drunken imbecile. Anyway, good old Gabe, he pops into O's backyard, and O was already a peculiar and is still a peculiar man. Now, O is short for Steve-O, and this is different than the Steve-O. The other Steve-O, this Steve-O just became O. He was actually in Oprah Winfrey magazine. He's in my documentary. He's even has a 3-second clip in Exit Through the Gift Shop. And between he and Phoenix Falcon, who's now called Phoenix Falcon, they knew that they had met along with the Mr. Brain Freeze guy, at least O meeting Mr. Brain Freeze. They knew Banksy, or had met Banksy before Banksy was building the Exit Through the Gift Shop movie. And so O had a 3-second part in that. But that's neither here nor there, right? But everyone kind of networked out. Gabe ended up networking with Chet Zar, who does the horror paintings. And those two looked alike. I even thought, like, God, if I was a complete prick, I might paint Gabe and Chet Zar like 69ing or just butt fucking each other for fun. Just to fuck with them, right? Just to fuck with them because, like, I think Gabe, I think a lot of people, especially if you're a smaller guy. Yeah, I was like 6'4". These guys are like definitely under 6 feet, right? And but they get, when you're it's shit. Even now, when I'm more dilapidated, you got to carry a weapon, or you got to be tough. And why O always had a duct tape. I'm guessing Gabe packed a knife. I don't know. I rarely packed anything, but on occasion, you pack a knife or something in case shit goes down while you're out on the boardwalk. But okay, and so anyway, once again, I'm just echoing, I'm just reiterating, I'm just going back, I'm just cycling back to this O's backyard story where I'm busy smoking weed, and I felt weird about it. I actually felt like it wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. And Gabe showed up, and the look he gave me was exactly that. Like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you smoking weed? and why, and it was all almost with a sense, like coming from Utah, that if you're more puritanical, less polluting of your body, more healthy, generally you're going to make better, probably more solid, level-headed decisions about life, and you'll probably end up not, fucking things up so much. But since I had already fucked some things up so much, it was no new big deal. Just like now, cast yourself into it. Not that I prefer it. This is now, like, I've already reached, probably a decade ago, that time where you're supposed to not use shit. But when you got fucked up feet like these pieces of shit, they don't look bad from there. They don't look bad. Anyway, they're pretty wrecked. But when you got these messed up feet, then yeah. Anyway, X, Y, and Z. How do I keep an audience? I give them word salad. Have you already left the video? Probably. Should I just get back to painting and shut the fuck up? Sure. It doesn't matter at this particular point now. In any case, yeah, not only am I begging for the baby mamas now, I have a girlfriend that when we did get back together, because she ends up showing up and then getting a second abortion down there. But okay, so back once again, Gabe shows up, gives me this look. I know in my heart I should not be smoking. I didn't need painkillers at the time. I just decided to smoke irregardless, I'll say. I'll use the improper term irregardless at this point because it felt like an ear and not just merely a regardless. Ear is in wrong-headed, differently twisted. And it was as if Gabe, knowing that I was both professional and he was professional, was seeing me succumb to the damages that living in Venice as a depressed, post abortion guy might look like. I think I did look like it. In any case, I think that's all I'm going to mention about good old Gabe, other than I was listening to one of his podcasts, and he was very nicely and very slowly kind of talking about what makes what was motivating him at different times and what he was going through at different times, and just kind of the production, right? Like, I paint in oils and acrylic. This happens to be acrylic, and acrylics are such a different struggle for me because there's very little blending and you have to move faster. And so my marks, it's so weird. It's like kitsch, I'm producing lowbrow kitsch artwork that is not impressing people by the brushstroke itself, right? Maybe it does. Maybe it can. I'm just saying, overall, I would imagine I appear more like a machine making a cutout piece of plastic print than a fluid evocative painter that has all the right emotions to track and trace and follow and combine with other humans. General sense of desire, right? Like, oh wow, is this does the painting look like I've belabored it? I think it does. See, and the idea is that you don't want to first belabor a painting, and secondarily, you don't want it to look like it's belabored. In any case, I didn't know where the rudiments of put it this way, like at one point the rudiments to success were splintered and brought into emotional and ancillary or otherly fields than merely being able to focus on the production of art. See, now Gabe, I believe he's a heterosexual guy, and he doesn't have any kids, right? I don't have any kids, but for him, it may be an issue, but I think he resolved it long ago. For me, it's as if I'm in some sort of weird conflict between women my own age from the neck up, being able to express the common wisdom of experience and otherly but contemporary experience as I was with me. So I feel like our heads can be in roughly the same location. Yeah, I'm still an odd duck. Most of the women I hang out with have raised kids. They've already had something stable that became disastrous, that flung them out. I haven't gone through that experience. My relationship with human organismal development is nil. It's next to none. Now, get a load of this. I just bought a school bus. That's right, a school bus. And it's almost overkill. It's almost too much to have a fucking school bus. Can you imagine? Have a big old school bus that you can't pull into certain towns. You can't, not towns, but onto certain streets. You got to watch out for trees. You can't make certain turns. Anyway, so I'm now, because I have these pain patches on, and I think I can get around better than. Well, I do get around better than if I didn't have them, but the underlying structure of my hip and my feet seem as if that ongoing deterioration due to the damage I gave it by leaping off a roof was, in fact, like it's catching up to me, and so it's a big fucking problem, and it hurts, and I've got too many pollutants going through my body. But anyway, so now, a couple decades later, listening to old Gabe talk about where he's at, he's referring to drinking a beer now and smoking weed now, all the stuff that we were doing then. The other guys, the reindeer games, that the good old Gabe just wasn't having those. It wasn't cocaines and hookers, but it was cocaine and hanging out with just the wildlife, both men and women, very respectful. A whole different historic and chronological era at that time, at the very budding of the internet, like flip phones, depressed buttons on phones, not necessarily cameras, not a lot of, most photographs were still not taken by a phone in 2003, 2004. By the way, 9/11 is an inside job, and I'll tell you why. It's an inside job because in 2003 I was on a plane, and in 2001 they said you could call people because they had those recordings of people on the plane calling home saying, no, the place has been taken over, we're gonna die, I love you. And they use that to propagandize for the unnecessary war in Iraq, which is now the whole decimation, which was unpredicted, I suppose, of Europe by just mere ancillary deportation of all these messed up Middle Eastern countries now that have now bled right into the European Union, for better or for worse, and it was going on before then anyway. It's not a single thing. But in any case, so it was 2003 even, and I was still analyzing the things I was hearing that were wrongheaded about about 9/11, and one of them was this whole idea that your phone could work on a flight. Well, in 2003, I had recorded myself taking a flight, and I had what was it? An 8mm recording tape thing. I hope I can find it. One day, maybe I'll find it. Oh, this guy, that's like Steve Fred from Venice Beach. He recorded all sorts of shit. That guy has a magnanimous self-video pile of history, unlike anyone I've ever met. His library of recorded self history is, I don't know, it's like somebody that does a TikTok video 4 times a day or something. The guy was just on ball. And in college, I saw O's artwork show up on some of the first internet connections that I saw in like 1997, 1998. It was absolutely, it was really wild. It was really cool. Big like cantaloupe vagina, big old earth for boobs, and just kind of this like fruit and I don't know, like a woman depicted by digital fruit and in space. It was like a brilliant, fresh idea. It didn't seem like it was taught in a university. He was a rogue element. People seemed to like it. I was busy painting landscapes and portraits and trying to learn the technicals about, painting theory, which this painting is absolutely a betrayal of, such that, just not to keep dragging you guys through my ocean of words here, but such that the darks are literally supposed to go in first, right? Meaning you lay an undercoat color, generally pretty basic across the whole painting. In this case, none, just white, right? So I'm already erroring there. And then the next step is to lay in the darks. Well, part of my deconstruction or muting away from the classical painting structure, which is like the Princess Snow White painting that I painted that I sold for enough money to buy a school bus. In which I was able to keep the rules of painting proper, which are that you lay down darks first, and then you pull from there. And what I'm doing now is I've laid down several midtones, even light tones, and now I'm adding darks. And so it was almost like trying to our art for me is now almost like trying to walk through methodologies backwards sometimes. Meaning it feels like that's what I'm doing it. Like I've gone so far. Like I've created hyperrealism. I've created creative shit. I've used airbrush and oils and different mediums, and I've used different techniques in these things, and it's like, hey, why not reverse everything? And then I realized, like, God, I'm just slopping through things because it's almost like I don't want just out of merely like I don't want to follow the rule. It must not be the same, right? And then get a load of this, right? Like it's okay. So when I'm in the park selling, I roll out paintings that are a decade plus old, right? Normally, you would want to not show any of the same work. You'd only, if you were showing up in the same place year after year, you would want to make certain that you were rotating new work. And some of the work has been new, and some of it's been hidden away and recycled. And that's what most of this was, because it was in this documentary that this Logan McDonald guy made of me, called The Mad World of Mike Fahl, F-A-H-L, The Mad World of Mike Fahl. You can look it up. You can watch it. You can go to muikefahl, F-A-H-L.com, and there's probably a link to it. In any case, point is, he did this documentary of me, and it was, I don't even know what to say on it. But other than the guys that I'm referencing, other than Gabe and other than Jimmy, are in this documentary. Basically, Phoenix and O, and my fam, and some other old fans. They're great. In any case, so check it out. Where was I going now? One of the things I was telling somebody earlier, the lady in the back, was that, man, this cannabis stuff, even though it does knock down the pain or reorient myself to it to manage it differently, it is also the culprit, I do believe, mentally, for not being able to recycle back to like the middle segued topic that I put into my stories that I I like to actually point back to when I get to the end of my stories. So I often forget those. So and then other times it just helps me dislodge the topic. Hence creating greater word salad. Hence we need chain link crypto. Thanks for watching. Whoever's watching. Oh, look at that. Oh, I got questions on there. I was on Venice Beach multiple times from 1997 to 2004. Anyway, so there's me doing, posts, illustration, doing these like airbrush things, and I was practicing with airbrush. One of my best sellers is this one called Midnight Magician. Black fella, blue eyes, flipping cards at you in an alleyway, all done one night before I went to apply for this job that I had for a year and a half, before I met Sherry, before my high school sweetheart Tracy showed up and fucked my mind up, reminding us of when we were 20, having the abortion and the love and everything. So I left and I went to Venice Beach where I met Jackson Collins, and he helped me out and he got me set up, and he said, the only thing that you need to do to repay me is make certain you teach someone else how to do that, which I have done a couple times, and even currently now there's this fella, Asa Winchester, and he is a California guy, and he's just absolutely been conditioned to fear many things, and to restrict himself and then come to know himself within whatever his restriction is, such that whatever he fears, he doesn't sense it until you attempt to migrate him to it, like saying, hey, why don't you go to Venice Beach, even after the virus and all this nonsense, and there's huge homeless encampments out there, and throw down your shit and see what kind of money you can make. Well, no. His dad tells him he's going to be killed, so he believes it. So he doesn't go, but now he doesn't have a car. He's not going to go anyway, but it doesn't matter. Oh, so yeah, by the way, okay, so first, this guy Phoenix right now, even years later, decades later, these guys are recycling back in my life. Well, Phoenix, he's quite the hell of a guitarist. And as if you guys didn't know, I play a shitty set of drums from time to time. But this here painting, I was dating this lady that also played guitar. And I didn't mean to date her, but she wanted to date me once we were jamming, so I just let it happen. But she said the only reason she was letting me, my shitty drum playing, be in her band was because she wanted to get with me. And I said the only reason I let you get with me is because I wanted to play music. In any case, for what it's worth, because my drumming is also part word salad at a time, but I catch back up. I eventually do re-land, hopefully, on some of these topics, but probably not. In any case, her daughter is a pretty woman, and she's not stacked, and she's a brunette, but she just turned 18, and it didn't matter that had happened, other than I had mentioned this to Phoenix, who he had just come in from Florida not too long prior to this time, and he was meeting everyone in my sphere here, and was ended up hanging out with Jenny because they were both guitar players, and I had since broken up with Jenny and argued with Jenny and oscillated, and even still did recently oscillate back into have Jenny come into my life for hopefully, and probably not the last time, but God, I need a fucking break from that lady. But anyway, the point is that he showed up, and he's not a powerfully, like some women find Phoenix extremely attractive. And anyway, so when he was over there, Jenny said, "Look, don't fuck my daughter." So that whole story was meant to tell you guys that this painting, at least one of the titles of it, is going to be don't fuck my daughter. But okay, so here we're going to move up, and we're going to do some angel wings on this non-hooker. And get a load of this. This is not any human. This is not anyone's daughter. This is no human at all, because A, shoulders are not that thin ever. P, it's an angel. And C, I've got to make angel wings. So we're going to go like that. But anyway, at least, if you can have fun while you're doing your work, that's like half of everything, if not just fucking everything. It's like, how are you going to kill time now that the world's exploded into a gazillion genres, right? You can do anything with your time. It's just what's consistent and what do you want to do? And do you think, it's almost like you're not even measured against other humans anymore. You're measured against like possible future AIs. Like, oh, yes, is painting and art the last remnant thing that humans do that might confound or compete with the aesthetics derived by an AI bot? Who knows? Only future will tell. Unholy Wild Child, lady on my shirt. Like her plenty. Never met her. She was just crazy. Then I got all co-opted into the mini phrasings, the nuances of the word wicked. You don't want to be wicked. You don't want to do wicked things. You want to be nice. You want to be kind. You want to be noble. You don't just want to be a lewd, drunk, rotten, more than variant, outbounded, less than sensitive to the cultural restrictions of children in all regards. I do have a prohibition on my art when I'm out in the park. I and I didn't always because I didn't comprehend it, not being a parent, not getting what parents were actually going through, having not had raised a kid and not really been around anyone to witness it either. But I put a prohibition of you must be 14 years or older to look at a certain segment of my artwork. The adult shit. If anyone tells you that you cannot lose your goddamn mind and jockily sling it back together like a Spider-Man's spider web of modulation, such that you can develop just almost with a magnet pulling on a sandbox, the iron coming at you can almost develop a new epistemology if your frequency and attitude adjusts enough. It doesn't mean, put it this way, coherence and modulated coherence don't appear the same. They're not the same, but they act the same. They do the same thing. If somebody appears to be coherent, you might derive them as such, not more or less than anyone else that you would imagine is less coherent or more coherent. Coherence itself is a type of consistent patterning relative to another form of analog or consistent patterning upon it, such that it appears to be reasonable. It appears to be folkishly reasonable. Now, this, guys, people, humans have this fascination with tits, and I have fascination with melon heads. But I'm having a difficult time right now because I need to paint this fucking cloud. By the way, this isn't a kid's show. Sorry, I just said that. Yeah, not a kid's show. Age restricted YouTube channel. But anyway, so I'm down there on Venice. Lots of hot days. It was just fun. People walking by, skating by. People, bums and millionaires and actors and anyone else just skating along, living the California dream down there, and things were calmer. They've ramped up. Things have changed. Maybe they're calm in their own new way now. But Dogtown was fucking wild, man. But it was tame to an extent, comparatively to where it may be now, with more like maybe there's more murders or more drug, more people, more homeless, more conflict, all everything the pandemic brought in and more. For your life's pleasure, more than the pandemic could have brought in, and more than you remember it being cray cray. Brought to you by the elites that are bringing down a shitstorm of horse shit upon a wag the dog sheepish population that can both be compliant and suffer the consequences, and then those perhaps that are in denial of what the mainstream and the vacay vaccine movement is trying to imply might be the dum dums. One population might die or hemorrhage or be reproductively damaged. And somebody was reading this like late 1800s Rockefeller quote earlier that I was watching on TikTok about how there is in fact a clandestine organization that needs to hold it and can't breach its secrecy, otherwise it would be chased down, hunted down, it would have no place to hide. And so they needed to poison the masses, and they need to slowly poison the masses, and you need to keep telling the masses that everything that they're doing is not poison, that they're actually there to help them. But the whole idea is to mitigate everything. But how did that plan actually work? Did that have any fucking teeth or not? Because certainly the population of the planet and the U.S. population and the Euro population, as well as the rest of the globes, anywhere from East Indian to Hispanic groups, population explosion. And so perhaps, and I'm guessing that not only along with the whole CRISPR movement and the potentiality for a new type of population control or maybe even eugenic yada might be at play, because if they can exact the different variations that appear in allele frequency amongst races and somehow target those as, like, I don't know, like go attack this group, and if you infect another group you won't cause the same harm because you don't have the same chromosomes, then CRISPR technology and the viruses and the variants might be, or the vaccines for that matter, might be a type of, what do you call it? Threat. Manipulation. Biological manipulation. Genocide. In any case, now this is so super important. As a matter of fact, it's just weird that there's these topics that are taboo to speak about, because it's like they don't want you to talk about it. And I was trying to give a virtue to somebody of, like, a virtue of mass censorship is in fact that you keep a population all at the same page, right? So people that are living in the same country actually believe they are in fact living in the same country, and that they're not in two whole different universes from one another, which, like, philosophically and spiritually, I actually promote the second. But for sociological reasons, I don't so much support the idea of having too many variability. Like, I wouldn't want the major core, even the idea of a major core of population, to have a huge divergence in opinion, and yet the whole Moore's law and the rate of development of technology and the rate of development of even change, it's like, everyone's at a faster clip now. I mean, the idea of slowing down is what a vacation is, kind of. Let me pause for one moment. Let me see if anyone's written anything. Oh, good old Ron. So I'm getting some love, and good old Ron showed up. I think Ron picked up my sassy scream from me. If I'm not positive on that, he had those wild dingoes and whatnot. Professor of something or another. You can let me know, Ron, if you're one of them watching. Okay, so I just turned a mountain into a wing, which seems unintuitive, but I have to make an angel out of this. Oh, Pyrrha's. Hey, Pyrrha. Shit, man, we should do something. I was fed up. I was neglecting my art for way too long since I bought this school bus. And this painting is actually, and people in the park, they're looking at, hey, how long does that painting take? And I say something like, oh, yeah, that one took like 2 sessions, like less than 6 hours. It was on my wall for less than 48 hours. The current painting I'm working on is roughly this size, and it's been on my wall for over a month and a half. Like, what am I thinking? Right? But I don't even know. I don't even know. Sometimes it's difficult to actually get bearings on what matters other than to become very focused, very self-centered, and make yourself priority, even if you define yourself by the well-being of others in some huge respect. The idea is pull back on the philanthropy. Don't be like Jesus. Don't let go of your family and chase him, and don't let go of your like give up everything and follow. It's more like the human soul is going to go through what it's going to go through regardless. But I think the context of modern communications and the technology of the internet and information at the palm of your hand in an instant, so unprecedented that Jesus would be proud. Can I just say that? Can I bring in a Jesus thing? Should I even bring up religion? Should religion be a thing in this video? Probably not. I actually, it's more, I'm almost more interested, honestly, in maybe reviewing or talking about methods of even painting, right? The idea of painting with acrylic is because you can water it down, you get a greater transparency. It's like this mess. You guys can't see it. Let me see if I can go here. Just watch and listen to you rant. So anyway, and so I'm gonna go this way. And anyway, something about the way the paint is like, it's like overly watered down. It's like you're not, it'd be like, I don't know, like it's acceptable in oil paints, but in acrylics, it feels like a cheat. It feels like a kitsch rendition, like a like a not thought out brushstroke, not well intended. You're kind of sloppily obtaining a result, and that's partially why it stays on the wall so long. They stay on the wall partially because of that reason, because it's like I'm just not clear. I'm not clear as to where I'm going, and I don't want to be, but I keep thinking, okay, put a big trout jumping up overhead, put a big wolf with a boner, a butterfly with a boner over here, or something like that. And anyway, I was just thinking, to what extent you guys might be able to jump in, and maybe finally I'll zigzag back to a Gabe or Venice Beach story or some sort of artistic development story. But if you guys watching have a idea as to whether or not there should be a butterfly with a boner or a wolf, maybe with a boner like a werewolf, in the background, let me know. Let me know that in the comments, and subscribe and hit the bell button. Fuck. I have to check. Just y'all, you guys know, come on. Bottom of the totem pole YouTubers kicking it after a decade, talking shit about nothing. It's like, what is this? And then it almost makes the whole like life commitment thing, very, very problematic. And so, okay, so relationship wise, this is what's been going on with me, right? So I keep hanging out and cycling with older women lately. I'm in the park, I hang out with all ages of women, even some super young women, too young. Keep it on the up and up, but just the public is out there. And anyone can swing by and ask me questions, but you keep a certain prohibition on stuff. But anyway, the point was I was just telling, because my most recent sexual partner, Erica, she sexual partner. Fuck, she probably wouldn't. I don't think she subscribed to me, so I'm not really worried about her hearing this. If she was, she wouldn't sit through this much. She's got more shit to do. But she's a bit older, and we share that common wisdom, the common generational facts. To some extent, she's a little bit younger, but and then I had to tell her that when I was out in the park, these two young ladies who one of them has perfect pitch musically, but they came out and they're just these tall drinks of water. And I went and showed them my Utah Party Girls painting. I said, "You two look like these two, and I paint women before I meet them," because it seemingly is the case that I do paint women and then I meet them. And sometimes I might paint a woman after I meet her. But anyway, Jesus Christ, where am I going? It's like fucking a gazillion degrees. My cooler's out now. Go on, guys. Send me all your money. Send me a whole bank accounts to Mike's Vimeo. Michael-fail-2. Say, for Mike's new cooling system. Kidding. Anyway, so the thing is I was telling Erica, I said, God, the older women, I just feel like I could cut their heads off like a bust, like an artist's bust from right here, right? Just like you'd sculpt someone. Like everything I'm cutting off of this lady, like right there, a bust up, right? And the reason you do that, that I feel like cutting their heads off is because that's how I feel like I'm interacting with them. Meaning I'm getting the fact that I haven't had kids yet has been such an overbearing pull towards the younger. And hence there's all of the splinters that come with being raised in a slightly different era under Moore's Law, where humanity is in some sort of weird new, thought and consideration about how it gets along and whatnot. And I had this 18-year-old or 19-year-old show up in the park and kind of imply like she was willing to get it on because her generation was stuffier, held up, or conservative than mine, and kind of gave me the wink. And so I went and I told this woman that was in her mid 30s, right, a little bit younger, a little younger than I am, and she said, well, why don't you go pick up on her and her friend? If her friend's 18, go pick up on both of them and just see what. So I go out and I was talking. I was like, okay, my lady friend there tells me I'm supposed to come out here because you made that line and actually pick up on you. But in fact, the lady that was telling me to do it, even though she had these two young kids, she, because she had paused me and she said, did you just pick up on a woman? Talking about another woman. Did you just get her number? I just saw you do that. You just did that. And I said, yeah, I guess. I didn't really think I was successful. She said, no, when I heard, I think you were. You should probably contact her. And I said, oh yeah, well this 19-year-old out here just got done telling me she basically was willing to da-da-da-da-da. And she's like, well, that way. And I said, her friend out there, they're both doing art in the park. And there's like 5 of these girls out there. And it was more about the entertainment of it. But I think the woman that was telling me to do it, I mean, she and I got along. We get along in the park. I get along with most people, actually. even though I don't remember their names. And then this lady, Selena, she's in the park. This that black lady who's giving me this bag. I wanted to give her a print called Whatever, which is like the black Verizon woman with her hair all funky because she was like this mulatto, half black Verizon looking lady. So I give it to her, and she's got these mystery grab bags, and one of them it says, okay, I can't remember the full joke, but it just kind of ends with like, is as awful as broccoli flavored beer. And so I got this mystery grab bag she was normally selling for $10, and it had some like CD in it, and it had some like hair ties and some lip balm stuff. It was mostly girly stuff, but I told her to sign the bag just because I thought it was like so clever. Chocolate, as bad as broccoli flavored beer. There was a murder in the park on Sunday. And anyway, so back to these women, the one with the perfect pitch, and these young, tall drinks of water that I hung out with. Well, their mom came out, or one of their moms came out and got the two paintings from me that I gave to her for very low price because the girls had moved. Apparently out of state or down to Vegas, or there was some sort of prohibition. Well, anyway, one of them, Rachel Rachel was saying, like, oh, mom, according to the mom, oh, this guy in the park, he's so super smart, and you should just meet him in X, Y, and Z. And anyway, the point was that the mom came out, and she is beautiful. I mean, she came out again after she bought the paintings for a very low price, like a couple weeks later. I didn't even remember her name. I just remember thinking she was like really, really pretty, right? And she was kind of like the blue-eyed version of Erica. And so we're all flirting, but I knew when she got the painting, she gave me her card. She's a lawyer. She's an esquire. And I'm like, God, I walk on pins and needles around lawyers. Like, I don't know quite what to think of this. So anyway, but it was very grabby to the point where we're hanging out, we're drinking a little bit because I'm drinking anyway. And then she wants something. We get cold or something. And we're walking up the park, and there's this murder tape in the background, and we're hanging out, and it's all grabby. And I'm saying, like, I guess it's okay, like obviously it's okay to touch. She's like, yeah, it's okay to touch, and this is like the second time I met this lady, we're like almost playing grab ass, and it was lovely, and she was just so lovely, and her daughters had kind of like, she said, oh, my daughter just said you're so smart, and then she would just kind of say, God, I think maybe I've been looking in the wrong location for men. And the guy that gave us the natty light, he though is a pretty handsome guy, and I could tell that they were wanting to exchange some words because I think this lady's just been too cooped up in the goddamn corporate world that she doesn't cut it out, doesn't get out enough. And anyway, even though we hit it off that day, I could not and did not and felt stupid. I still feel stupid, even though I'm like grabbing her, not like grabbing her ass or grabbing her tits. Just we're just touching, arms bouncing, kind of walking, holding hands type of thing. But I can't go in for the kiss, so I go in for the kiss, not in for the kiss, meaning I go in to approximate and then speak to her about the approximation of the kiss. And at this point, then I'm thinking, because I had also gone on about how this Colombian woman said, you American guys have no machismo. You just won't go in and just take what you need. And I was like, damn. And because I've been like, I've always been like a generally consensual guy, making certain everything's on the up and up. But I realized at this very ripe old age that kind of like the, fuck you, Red Butler, I will not do what you said. Like, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. And he grabs her and he kisses her, like I think that this woman, even with these young adult daughter and daughter's friend, wanted this, and I personally want it. It's like I'm saving it. It's like I've been saving myself post-abortion, post-relationship, post-time, post-decade, post-body break to absolutely positively find a mega someone I'm attracted to. Like, not someone that's after me, someone I like, someone that I would like to be with, not someone that would like to be with me. Not that I have this huge problem, but I like to frame it that way. And uh and anyway, so I don't kiss her. And then she sends me one more text after we're done, and it wasn't even a closing text. And then she just went silent. And I was telling Erica about all this because Erica's who I currently, I told her how delightful this other woman was, and she's very receptive. We're very open with one another. Unlike Jenny, who's a complete psychopath that hunts me down and threatens me and freaks out and doesn't know her ass from a hole in the ground. Oh, Christy with her neurotic ways, who can only hang out for 20 minutes at a time. Didn't know it was wrong, but was playful and nice and has her own little ways and her own little universe now down in another city than me. But oh, Erica. Even though I'm staying with Andrea, who's in the back, strictly platonic. Come on, Andrea, say something. Don't say anything. Anyway, and so... and we're platonic, but anyway, so I'm telling Erica about this lady named Christine, the mom, the lawyer, and she asked whether I was telling her the story in order to make her jealous, and I said, no, not really. I just have this way of not wanting to lie to you about what is going on with me. Because when you're out in the park after COVID and everyone's all stuffy and you're acting like a goddamn clown and you got a bunch of weird art and people are looking at it, there's a certain degree of power, whether or not the art's 10 years old or not, that I, quite frankly, even though Gabe is against it, and I'm actually against the idea of not producing new work to show. Instead, I just throw out the old shit whenever I want anyway. I also like the idea that I just throw rolls of paintings down and unroll them in grass and on dirt. And at the end of the day, I will roll them and knock some of the grass off or some of the dirt, but I quite frankly don't even give a shit. This one will be part of that roll. It just will. Unless somebody buys it. Because that's what the fuck. That's where I'm at. I thought you were a rebel. Ron Johnson wondered if I was a rebel. Well, I do. Okay, so as far as all like theological rebellion, I'm like, I don't know about theological rebellion. I think it sometimes, but as far as sociocultural rebellion or just being a rebel in general, yes, the world needs something definitely punkish. And it probably needs it pretty fast, and it probably needs it in the face of all of the corrupt horseshit that is actually going on, that is just demeaning to humans. This whole idea that every one of your moves on this technology that we use is recorded and hanged out indefinitely for analysis, criticism, or rebuke, or legal futures, or whatnot. It's like it's a data strip. It's like, well, who would have thought a rebel developing in his youth would have met a device that records the rebellion? But then it makes you think about game theory, in not the game theory way, but in the fun way to think about game theory. Like, hey, life's just a game. Making money's just a game. Doing shit's just a game. Painting art's just a game. Everything's just a game except for like shit that you don't want to be a game. All right, so I think it's coming along. I might have to change the front end just to make certain the back end still looks like it's just shit. And I don't even look around. See, what's the competition like? Composition. Cheap Trick. Now I must listen to Cheap Trick. All right. Jeez Louise. Okay, so that being said, let's see. What does that look like with Leon the Belly and... shit. See, it's maybe almost better left without it being wings. It's just she's got to have a halo, right? And I was telling this lady, I said, look, even if I paint angel wings on her, there is no way those little angel wings would be able to, airlift those tits. It's just not going to happen. Those tits are too big. And in any case, look at this humongous melon head. This is what I meant by this isn't even a human. This is a future or an ancient human lady with one of those cone heads. And since all you get are the skeletons, you have no idea. You guys had no idea that these women, their tits, are hugajumbus. And I don't want any of my lady viewers, regardless of your bosom size, to take offense or find this obscene because, I don't really believe that the expectations of men or women that we have upon each other, some sense of like idealism or fantasy idealism, is a subtraction or an actual like of a heavier value than the content of the human inside, right? So that what the fuck can I say? Right, this is actually really stupid of me now to record. I should just be quiet and paint. Be quiet and paint, and then cover up what I'm painting so you guys don't even see. And drink this beer when it's like 90 fucking 8 degrees. And the beer is like 78 degrees. It's like this. I should have put it in the freezer. So there was a fire in my complex just like a few days ago. And I'm a gimp, but I had to go all the way down, climb up the stairs, knock on all these doorways, like, get the fuck out, get it, wake up, there's a fire. Anyway, I didn't think much of it until, and I wouldn't have mentioned it actually. I had this Mexican lady, this older lady, not thank me for doing that after the fact. And I didn't really. I just thought, like, hey, the nice thing might be to get these people away from fire that may, kill them. That would be the nice thing to do. And then I thought, if I'm a rebel, then who am I a rebel to? Who would I let burn in a fire? And I thought, God, I don't think I'd let my worst enemies burn in a fire. I think that's a tragic state of theology, a tragic state of threatful theology. Even though I do think that the realm of God piercing the veil of the universe is different than the full, complete, or a notion of a complete understanding of a theological position that is allowed through modern day living. In one way, it's almost like God requires you to be a primitive. I was even arguing like you must become a little bit schizophrenic in order to overly expand the associative mind, because if you don't overly expand it beyond the realm of sensibility, rationality, like you don't want someone to go fully unhinged, but it's almost a requirement to go fully unhinged and ungrounded, only because when you collapse back in, when you flip the paradigm, when you've woke up in the non-political way, but in the spiritual way of waking up, then that's almost like you're trying to just pull little iron bits out of sand in a sandbox, and that your mind is in fact these little minute bits that are slung together and then remade into a choreography of geometries. And then you can characterize any one of them the way you want. But anyway, okay, so enough of this shit. Enough of this babble that I normally do. What I would like to actually continue to talk about is kind of the idea that at some point, Gabe and I never kept hanging out, right? Like the competition was either too high or there was some sort of degree of animosity or difference or like non acceptance in the group. And yet, I didn't mind the guy. I just thought like, hey, whatever, like I'll be fine, he'll be fine, or I'll do great and he won't, or he'll do great and I won't. But he ended up doing great in comparison to what I would say is my sub great. Like I feel sub great. I feel like I've got a hanging chad of greatness that's associated with my shit. And that might just be like an ego bound pile of horse shit to say also, right? It is what it is. It'll do what it does. Paint the paintings that you want. Think what you want to think. But back in the day, it was kind of like I was also talking to Erica about the what's so difficult is having been raised in an environment where weed was so like not only illegal but propagandized to you as non-restorative, non-medical, non-medicine, just the devil's weed, the worst damn thing that even William Burroughs said weed is the worst drug you can use. Or he didn't say that, but he said something that was inciting that idea. It's outrightly suggesting, in fact, that weed is the worst drug that the human mind can put itself through. It was a comment that William Burroughs had in one of his writings, and I've echoed that with Asen. Anyway, so and other people that have read some Burroughs, or just even people that haven't read some Burroughs. Anyway, the point though still is that beyond the patches that I wear for pain and the idea that I might have my fucking whole leg from my hip removed, just that, like I feel the underlying structure still barking, even though the pain is numb to shit. And I keep a regular sauce of alcohol going if I know I have to take steps. So you guys probably notice, I stand still in a position and hold the position longer than the average human would have to. And that's strictly pain mitigation is what that is. And it fucking sucks, man. I sit there, it's just like, how much of this fucking shit am I going to take before I'm just done? And like, how many of these drugs do I take? Or, am I going to get sober and experience? It's just like you got to manage the horror of your body, no matter where it is, and it's like, there's older people than I am by even 30 years that are in less pain, but basically around that time, it's roughly like, hey, shit's falling apart. And so I went through this whole, like, okay, look, I haven't had a death in my personal family in so long that I don't actually really know or identify well, actually empathize, that is, with people that have had that. Even though it's so devastating close to home and compacting and confounding, it just has abated me. And I'm happy, honestly, that it has, although it is almost to the point where it allows my mind to somehow then start to conjure that it's my goal to bag on art, throw it up, throw myself into gene therapies and any sort of negentropic, as Anton would say, negentropy for the human body, to save it. How do you both think that you're required to do God's bidding, but you're also required to like save, even if it's just a matrix and it's a recording, or just data flesh bits in this matrix, it's just winds up for naught ultimately, and you have that opinion about yourself in history is just a diminished, even Brad Pitt. No one survives all of history, but the idea of the internet recording the details and the inputs of history is so goddamn amazing. But the idea that the human organism or biology is in fact a data set that could be resolved, could be saved, could be resurrected, could be, like a real Akashic record, right? Like I think if Elon makes another company, you should call it like the Akashic Record Company. And I mean, that's just akin to fucking Google or anybody else that's gathering just worldwide data on shit. And then I got depressed recently because I heard that China buys all of our genetic information, but it's illegal for anyone in China or Chinese companies or anyone to sell the genetic sequence of anyone that's Chinese. And so that the worry was that there was actually this ethno war potentiality that could stem from these like an analysis and using like CRISPR reverse transcription into DNAs to slight something that you might say is rudimentary to a population, right into their very genocode. And so in other words, genetic warfare or pathogens that are specific, like there's apparently this new mosquito, go figure, that is poisoning people, that was showing up on Yahoo News, and that it's deadly. And I just thought, okay, now how much of this is fear mongering and how much of it is actually a cautionary tale of perhaps a real genetically modified mosquito that can fucking kill? And then of that, or is it possible that select groups of people, not even with the metrics of race, because I personally think us tall guys, somehow these short fuckers have decided to get the Klingon tall gene or whatever the tall gene is out of the goddamn breeding pool. Just goddamn too tall. Oh, what do we have here? Okay. Oh, now we have Bolt. Oh, we have Faith in here. So, Ron, Faith, Piero, Very Scary, Killer Bees, Medusa, Akasha Queen, damn, Blues, you've evaded. Careful, tragically hip ahead. Out, see? I have the tragic hip now. Oh, you don't know what you were like in school. I imagine you were part of the subculture and the culture. Slowly catching up, like being from the future. Like slowly. Well, to the extent that I think I was from the future and from the past. Even I did the necessity for romance picture, and it was a lady, and people would ask me about her, and I said, well, she's both from the future and from the past. She's nostalgic, and yet that shit hovering around her head, that's some magic shit from the future. And that's neither here nor there. Jesus. Okay, so the problem actually came down to narration. Like, how does one happily, properly, intuitively, and not of a journalistic reporting on the matter, do something like a dialogue and a conversation about the people and the nuances and the relationships that they have in their specific life. And in this particular episode, I was focusing not on the helium blockchain that I just recently am getting a miner sent to me for free so I can be a part of, and I recommend you guys be involved with that too. That's right, it's free to ship out, and you make helium, digital helium. Can you imagine? It makes your voice sound like this. It's just the opposite. When you're shitting, you feel like, man, I now sound like I just shit myself in a subway, in a bathroom, in a subway, and it echoes and it makes my voice very, very, the river low. So this place burns out. This condo upstairs, 2 stories here. It's across the way from my building. It's like 25 feet from my building, across the way from my building. And this thing burns out. The condo burns out. Well, anyway, for some reason, after several years, the woman below the unit that was renting to this guy decided after this fire, for whatever godforsaken reason, even though this guy and his girlfriend were busting their ass to save the upstairs unit, were found out and are currently out in a damn carport because they've been evicted. The guy was like, great, they had a fire and I get evicted. I have no, he didn't say I have no idea why. He actually had an idea why, but it's just peculiar. So fires, school bus, working too heavily, disjoining the school bus, trying to organize, trying to figure out how, like, right, okay, like this fucking painting, for example, it's on sheetrock. This is just canvas that is stapled into sheetrock. And so what I'm doing was I was going to purchase a large, piece of sheetrock, which I guess are like 4 foot by 8 foot, but I only need 6 foot. So it'll be 4 foot by 6 foot. Well, this is about 4 foot by 6 foot, I would imagine. And anyway, and I'm not going to cut the wall out, so I got to buy a new sheetrock. But I was at the damn Home Depot and I didn't have a cutter, and they weren't going to cut it, and I wasn't going to cut it and do some. I'm like, hey, so if I buy this, these young 20s clerks, I'm like, do you think you could like karate chop it in half at about 6 feet? And they're like, no, I don't think we could do that. Yeah, thanks for entertaining the idea. Then again, shit, I gotta get ice for this. I just gotta get ice. Excuse me. You guys do the talking amongst you for a minute. You have things to do, don't you? Well, the cooler's fucked. And even the phrase, son of a bitch. Jeez, get over that. Never get over that. Anyway, this lawyer lady that was so attractive and so seductive, and the mom of this other woman is so touchy-feely. When she didn't respond to my initial text, I thought, well, it's because I'm a street bum and she is a high-paid attorney. And so I had to tell her, like, look, I don't want to fool you. You might think I'm Picasso and I'm really wealthy and I'm going to be able to show you around town and take you to the finest places. Or I didn't say all that. I just said, look, I'm kind of a low budget guy, so don't be over expectant when we go on our date on Wednesday, which never happened. But and then I had to tell Erica while I was then screwing Erica about how I was telling her how we were going to have a date on Wednesday, but instead I'm out. And it wasn't. It's just absurd. My life's absurd. My life's absolutely absurd. I had to tell Erica, like, look, I just had to fucking tell you because it's what's going on. And then, okay, so get a load of this. So Erica, oddly enough, this lady that I'm part interested in, she did a legless dude. The dude had 2 prosthetics on the bottom, and I was flattered to hear it because I said, God, that might be like a future thing. You know what I mean? Like a future thing. And by the way, if you guys have any recommendations about this painting, like, should it be wings? Should I put weirdness in the sky? A trout in the sky? Feel free to type away. I also thought color the Mona Lisa, right? Mike's Mona Lisa, the Mona Lisa. But now there's definitely something cherubim here. Anyway, excuse me, I gotta get ice. Maybe I'll pick up the story where I left off. Maybe I'll remember. Maybe I'm not losing my Vulcan mind. There it is. Are you out of your Vulcan mind, Jim? Are you out of your Vulcan mind, Spock? The heater blew out. It's a very expensive heater, and it's all blown out now. What in the hell is a guy like me in these conditions supposed to do for the destiny of the cosmos in a grander scale? You know, the grand scale, you know, the grandest of grand scales, even if you believe it's impossible yourself. To what extent is one willing to extend and break and tap themselves out of their little shit shell of an egg? Like my condo is an eggshell, and I just chip away, chip away. You take Faith in Canada, chip away. She's never left her house. She'll never leave her house. She's so scared. She's a scad. Her whole world's broken down. She's in a different complex of relationships. Let me pick on her. In any case, and then what do? I buy a school bus, which is like another eggshell, but a smaller eggshell. Okay, just keep that in mind. Oh, what do we have here? A Klondike bar. Wait, new comments. People have been commenting. Son of a gun. This show is taking off, folks. Oh, yeah. Shit. Okay, so at least I got some darks in here. At least technically, I'm working with this negative, like if you're gonna do shitty brush strokes, then try to like make the shitty look consistently shitty, or like kitsch, or like not well, you know, over belabored. Like make it look that way. I don't know. I feel like I'm coming in with a rough C grade on this, maybe a C plus. I'd say that painting's worth a C plus, mate. Tits and all. Okay, so what was I going to say about anything? Other than like, in the future, I would imagine I would look back on my pictures and think, God, Mike, you were still an asshole when you knew better. You were still a dickhead. You still told the world this. You still propagated these ideas you had no business propagating. You had no business saying. But I'm really not going to kick my own ass over this, to be honest. I've seen so much worse. I'm almost really glad for TikTok, and even I was telling some people, I said, you know, even this like pushback against white males that went on, I said, I really kind of like the fact that happened, right? Just kind of like solidified it as a group to put in check and let it be known it was being put in check. And I thought, why not? Every other group has been outlined and put in check. And I said, quite frankly, after the Trump and kind of like this post tectonic fracture of politics and living with all the other dimensions of the coronavirus and whatnot, it's like, why not, man? Like everything does need a little bit more. I don't want it to granulate. I wouldn't mind it being like islands that are pulling together, where you see like a backup reverse film of tectonic plate expansion, where you see people like they're in other words, everyone's getting their wings clipped, they're getting taken down a few notches, and then they'll settle into their future. And somebody was still reading this Rockefeller paper, and she was just damning about how we're going to poison you, and then we need help. We're going to make it candy for you and your kids, and then we're going to poison you more. It was all before the internet. They didn't even talk about such things because it was like the late 1800s, and it was just this idea that you can live a life and go to hell because wherever you die or whatever you live is an infinity into the future, and if what you're doing is only amplified, like if every moment of your life was amplified for the whole universe of aliens to see, you might want it to be on the positive level or the loving level or the balanced level or the sane level or something, the coherent level. You might not want self annihilation. You might not want murder. You might not want hate. You might not want disgust. You might not want anything that's less than endearing to become an infinite part of the patterning that is defining the granulated you, whatever the you is. In any case, I got to work on this here elbow, kids. You kids in the squalor down there in Louisiana. When you're wrestling gators, I want you to think of them here big old boobers. And I tell you now, old Faith in Canada, she's got some big old hoppers. And I don't know whether or not they ever hung this way, but you know what? You guys, you're not allowed to go up there and just willy-nilly on humping on her. It's because she's got big ones. Sorry. See, I just feel like apologizing for everything that I say, even though I think it's part funny. Like, on the other side of this, she's laughing. On the other side of this. But okay, so sorry guys, I actually have to face the painting instead of giving my profile to figure out what I'm doing. Like, it's okay to not even know the direction of this painting, but I get to the middle of every fucking painting. It doesn't matter if it's a landscape, doesn't matter if it's 5 hours or if it's a month. I get to a point in the goddamn doing that is a type of frustration because you don't know how your own self is going to resolve what is right in front of you. I don't know, but I do like looking at it in the image there because it's at least it gives me an idea of what I need to work on color wise. Shit. Sorry. Let me watch you guys. Watch me beat the shit out of myself. By the way, ladies, I'm still available, and I will shave my mustache and get a tummy tuck of my neck. Right? Good. Hey, Ron. Ron, you and I should talk sometime. Piro, we communicate on the regular. Oh, Faith, we communicate on the regular. Oh, Vane, he's around. But, it would actually be good to do a chat room and get everyone updated. And just throwing words together is really the idea. Like, look, just collide. Like, be spotlights that are intersecting each other like thoughts do in your brain. The neurons slosh this way and they project an array that way that balances against a previous slop that goes the other way, and it's like 2 or 3 or many spotlights intersecting that make up your mind's eye, make up a 3D rotating whatever I want to say, an elephant that you might or might not deny. So I'm really sick of this shit philosophically that's going around, this idea like you cannot know a knot. The mind won't let you. If I say don't think of an elephant and people laugh, then you must have thought of an elephant. You can't stop it. But that went on 3 times earlier today, and I was like, God, I never did think, like, visualize an elephant once when this guy said that 3 times. And I thought, God, it's just fucking bullshit that this guy is like trying to tell people that they're logically dependent on negatives for the negative of the negative, for the positive of the negative. And I thought it's just not the case. But in the last case, I did think of the spelling of the word elephant, but it wasn't even complete. It was like elephant. And I was just left in this like leftover thing. And I was like, why am I in this world of these fucking gurus trying to tell people this whole line of formalized bullshit about what must be the case? I mean, that's really my upset about everybody. It's like, come on, guys. There's obviously a fucking exception to every fucking rule at some point from some orientation, I would imagine. Who agrees? Who doesn't agree? Okay, anyway. So back to Gabe and back to the beach and back to the fact that Gabe knew how to lay a nice green blue in the background of a lady wearing a red dress, like a perfect compliment. It was well complimented. And he started to sell more and he was selling more. And the guy was just outright. He was making $1,000 a day to my 200, 250 a day. And so I was like, I'm 1/4, 1/5 of the artist of this guy. And this is after I'd painted the princesses. Just Venice Beach didn't want princesses. And who was the next runner up? My roommate, Jimmy, who just painted abstract, crazy fucking balls to the wall nonsense and then some sense on ignorant art, little pieces of cardboard that you just draw like fucking any old design with any old saying on it about any old fucking thing, and you throw it out and you'd ask people for $10 for it. And I mean, most people don't know that you can actually, like make slop, and people would rather give you money for slop paintings. Not saying that Jimmy's weren't, like, the guy had a hell of a talent in even his abstracts. Everyone was very heavily influential upon me, I have to admit. Um, but I think even like if I was homeless, I was talking to Phoenix, and he's like, man, if I was fucking down on my luck, I'd go work for these places over here. I'd be able to get a job. I'd just survive. These other people, they don't know how to survive. They're just fucking homeless. They're out on their ass. I can't. And in any case, and I thought, well, why wouldn't you just produce ignorant art on the side of the road and ask for a donation to get out of, if you're on your ass broke, like give them something. I don't know. That's just, and that might just be my mind frame because I'm who I am, doing what I'm doing. Cheers to me, and cheers to you, and cheers to our friendship that is true through and through. But if we ever disagree, fuck you, here's to me. If we ever fundamentally disagree, fuck you, here's to me. That would be the thing. But unfortunately, I've lived my life as a philanthropist of giving orders to the extent where when my own life was unraveled, I must have given more to the others because the others were in fact me. In the oneness, the grand oneness that makes up the soul, only a one-time ride through experience, even if you can reinterpret the universe from many, many ways, many, many angles, many, many thoughts of reinterpretation, and not solidify on the idea of the specific story, or the specific, or the true, or the natural, or the most stated thought. And yet I take umbrage with myself and would argue with myself against such a policy as always reinterpreting one's past instead of feeling like, yeah, no, I kind of knew that about myself, and I'm just going to kind of stick with that because, that's me. That's who I tell myself I am. That's who I am. Obviously, it doesn't echo, and I'll never bring back the past, and neither are you, and here we are, and X, Y, and Z, and what do you do? Well, I tell you what you do. You paint tits. Those tits are the tits. Sorry, partially upset that I'm not getting any. Well, in that one I did. Vape juice. Okay. One more beer, and then I must fix this. So anyway, I was still really, it was really nice to see Gabe do a painting online. Right, he's working in oils, and it's all smooth, and he's got it all ironed out. He's very professional. He's done well by himself, and but he was just kind of going over his means of being in production and the way in which he lives and how it is he sees things. And I think I was just kind of like wanting to reminisce on the history that he and I did in fact share, that he would rather, I suppose, not articulate. Like he doesn't actually want to articulate me. But now Gabe, because he was successful in his art, I'm not unsuccessful in my art, but we were both artists, true and true. I would have to, as these other guys are. And I don't know where I want to go with that. Hang on a second. Let me turn this down. You guys can see both my my dick right here and my palate right there. Okay, once again, this isn't a kid show. Just in case you guys were like, "Hey, Mike's kid show, Dospook's kid show." It's not a kid show. It's Adult Swim. It's always been Adult Swim. Not always. I probably made a few things that are okay for kids, kid stuff. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Where was I going? What was the topic? What was I saying? What was I doing? Oh yeah. Okay. So anyway, so I end up leaving Venice. O ends up leaving Venice. Michael Falcon ends up leaving Venice. Hersiak ends up eventually leaving Venice, getting married to a Swedish brunette lady, the abstract guy, Jimmy Hersiak, and so I went to Utah. O went to New York. Eventually, Falcon went to New York. And Hersiak went to Sweden and then went to Pensacola, Florida. And Gabe stayed in LA and then wanted to get the fuck out of LA. And I still have no idea actually where the guy is. He's probably inland and still in California. He's not in LA. Point being, though, is that if you guys, not that it's hard to find any other artists that upstage me, you can always look up these guys and go, oh yeah, I guess, you know what, like, maybe as much as I say, oh, Das Pook is a great artist, these other guys, they really kick some ass. I mean, Mike doesn't seem like he's got a lot of, work ethic. He's not producing it out. It's not all about that. Like what the guy thought about. He should be working, work for a living, get your painting done. And then sometimes I feel like painting is a type of redundant slavery to, like, compared to the other jobs, it's not. It's a creation. It's fun in that it's a creation. I have to admit, there's something unique about all this, but I'm not bringing home the big bucks on this. I mean, it's very rare. It comes as feast and famine. I'm not what you would call a successful artist. I run all sorts of other income lines like a dog. It's like the helium miners I've got to send out, and go to my website and I'll post something there about helium miners, and you can get them while they're hot, and there's only less than 2 billion coins in circulation. They've only circulated half, and they're only 3 years in. So certainly the value from 1247 to 1260 today is going to jump, is going to move. And this is during the time when Bitcoin would be considered crashed, down to 33,000. Ethereum down from 4,000 to 2,700. Like, I still recommend that you guys get something kind of like, look, if there's going to be a digital overlord, even if there's AI might dominate everything. Well, fine, it'll just dominate everything. But in lieu of a predominant AI, I would prefer alternative community networks as opposed to company Comcast, Google networks running shit, and that's precisely what Helium's doing. But this is just kind of like the next thing. It's almost like a soul avoidance, right? Like, where is my soul? And this my soul. Once again, it keeps pushing north, and I thought, oh, am I supposed to go see Santa? Am I supposed to go up into Canada again and just overshoot that whole area there in Alberta? Just overshoot it and then just keep heading on out? Or am I supposed to go to Alaska? Am I supposed to avenge the guy that somehow I let, jackknife and hijack my life. Like I didn't know that it could have been anyone. I mean, people put people into tailspins all the time, but who would have known? So someone is the greatest spinner in your life, and this guy fucking span, and the result not intended by him was still just fucking really super shitty, And but it was my own doing, and what can I do other than just be angry at the guy because he wants, like the closest thing to an apology was him saying that he occasioned the situation, like that it was merely an occasion that he influenced me to make certain decisions that I did. It wasn't a coercion; it was an occasion, and I can get behind that to some minor extent, and yet I was also like, what is the point? Like, what really is the point of all this, right? And then, okay, so now back to you guys that are watching on YouTube, right? The whole antinatalist thing. Yes, I have my head cut off because I'm busy meeting women that are my age that I get along with wisdom, but I don't have historic nurturing or history of offspring thing going on, like a lot of the men that also have that are older. It's difficult to meet that, and so because of that, I'm obscured and offset. Especially if I'm still, even at this old age, wanting to run roughshod against some sort of a mendium antinatalism, right? Or just, world population extinction. Like, I would rather people fought against the dystopia that is not even ratified by the arguments of an antinatalist, but just more like an intuition that these times are too hard to want to prolificate. And so I think there's a rash of cultural lesbian and gayism that's occurring, and maybe it's just that there was this sublime, latent, nascent truth about lesbian or whatnot, and it was just waiting for this opportune time to come out. But I don't see it that way. I think that the culture paints the sexuality in one huge regard. And maybe that's why I want to paint a wolf back here, standing, and he's standing, and he's got a woody, and he wants to rage, and it's going to be a cloudy little landfill here. So I must paint my wolf, get the wolf ready, and bring him out to play and rage. Okay, but anyway, so I was watching Gabe do this painting in this talk, and the guy is so like nicely centered on a utilitarian description about his life and like going over different historic chronologies in a very like a matter of fact way of this is how it was and how this is how it changed and this is how one thing was and then how another event occurred and then self-definition, ancillary information, and then a recycling back to even the production of artwork or just a stated fact about his being. Uh, hmm, I think the thing that was also upsetting was that he was reporting that at the time that we knew each other, I do believe, unless I was already gone by then, because he was down there a few more years on Venice Beach proper before or after I left. But I have something to do. Anyway, and had something to do with the fact that even at that time, even though I had just experienced a second abortion, I was throwing caution to the wind. I was kind of renewing my self definition of the time prior to any like. I mean, it was in one way it was very spiritual. It was a pre indicator of some aspects of the universe in flux and paradigm that was actually going to change. It was like because there were coincidences and phenomena that I was experiencing, but not of the otherly domain origin like the orb or the red star, but more like of the coincidental and like love ratifying possible space with the woman that had the abortions with me and down there. And anyway, to the extent that he even saw and witnessed all of the romances, at least with O and Pollyanny and me and Tracy and X, Y, and Z. He didn't really comment on them as much as acknowledge that he was witnessing them. And in any case, I think what I'm doing by even bringing him up is something like a confessional, like letting everyone know that not like this painting at all, but like other paintings. When I was going through what's called a style swipers variants in my painting techniques, I was copying a lot of shit from a contemporary named Gabe Leonard. And now, once again, we're on the boardwalk. We'd set up next to each other. We even probably set ups next to each other several times, and he generally still had the better gravitation, and he even had the better setup. I was still on the ground pushing landscapes, and he had his prints on pegboard at a diagonal, and he was just thinking ahead. Anyway, the guy was a bulldog. He still is a bulldog, and he's super talented. And I have to grant over greater talents to the people where they deserve it. And yet at the same time, so while someone's focusing on that, I'm busy through relation problems, through emotional problems, through abortion problems, through ruined relationship, obligation, not seeing my blind spot, spinning around and around. What am I doing at that time? Right? I'm not organizing my life. I'm not putting it together. I'm not focused on the creative. I'm focused on technique. And I did sell really not really, really well, meaning I sold often and I floated my boat for my one bedroom apartment on Thornton Avenue between, even closer to the beach before the speedway. Just saying, that's where I was in that white fucking building before Jimmy. I was just on the roof to get a painting off. I think, who the fuck was it? Lolo, probably Lolo. Somebody threw one of these paintings on the roof of a 7-foot carport, so I climbed on it. Well, Jimmy had since moved out to the upstairs apartment, and he decided to call the fire department on me as a jumper, which is absolutely fucking hilarious, but it didn't serve me at all well. Actually, it fucking threw me into a detox psycho zone, and I couldn't imagine why or how the authorities in this world are actually able to take control of us as if we're property. Like that was really waking up to that. Like, holy shit, when they want, not a lot of people are going to get in the way. If the police want to arrest someone, there's not a lot of people that are going to go like over my dead body. So in any case, and hopefully there's more people that are going to come about that would say no over my dead body, and then things would get actually a little bit more, even more like a deconstruction of the police system than they currently are. And I'm not even an advocate for defoundational society. I think society has to have some rungs, some janky elastic containment, that at least that when it's going through some form of heightened assault or deprivation or change that it itself is like now, like they're throwing a lot of money at people, but that's like a backwards solution. It's like a semi backwards governmental solution that's not really it's not it doesn't it's not like fiscally responsible. Like our whole economic system is unfiscally responsible. And now the fucking roosters come home, to roost. And so hyperinflation, and then all the whole food wave outs, the droughts, the fires. I mean, I was even like, fuck, people are dying in British Columbia and Seattle because it's too hot. It's like they're not prepared for a heat wave, so they're not prepared to put coolers in. They only have heaters, not coolers. So a bunch of fucking people die, just like when it got really fucking cold in Texas. It's like this swampy shit, right? So you can either think the government's controlling the weather now or influencing it heavily, or you can think that it's like over pollution, over greenhouse effect. It is the breaking point of the previous era of meteorological stability on the planet, or not. I don't know. Let's see. Who's typing what? Anyone? Oh, you're still with me. Oh, Faith. What do we have here? Blowing minds. Thank you. And something else. And I don't even have my glasses on. I can't even read it. All I know is that Leon lag of belly shit on my belly is hanging there readily. Stay bright, remain lit, and I will stay up in Canada getting ripped with my big tits and my aloneness and my awareness and my thoughts about X, Y, and Z. Yep. Andrew's just laying quiet in the back room with the cooler on. I don't think she has a headset on. She's probably trying to get some sleep now. But I told her to keep the door open because the cooler's running in the back room and I needed another fan to blow it into the other room. And my cat has a limp now, and I don't know why exactly my cat has a limp. And then it got rid of the limp. Like it got rid of the limp, but it might show up again, this limp. And I thought, I'm going to take my goddamn cat to a vet. Am I going to take my cat to a vet for a limp? Well, I'm glad I held off and waited until the limp subsided. And then I thought, oh God, that's great. Maybe my limp will subside. Nah. Yeah. Still, what is this wreck? Where am I at time-wise? I'm at 2 hours, 3 viewers. Oh yeah, I got a chicken and a full and a laugh out loud and an etc. X, Y, and V. Where am I at? Let's see. Oh, there we go. It's the old Bolt Lightning. She should have some commentary about these memories. Memories floating in my mind. Memories. If cannabis was not legal in Utah, I more than likely wouldn't be doing it. That's how much I abide by the system, by the legal system. And I was busy in this argument with these guys on Discord about the metrics of measurement. Like, okay, they're measuring these populations by race, and they're trying to suggest a metric based on what? Oh, criminal violation. So I'm like, well, if you're going to look for a genetic essentialism, why don't you take the population of everyone that's interned in the jails, assuming that there's a margin of them that are innocent that are in there, and there's probably a greater margin of criminals on the outside, but nonetheless, look there for your genetics instead of looking at a race thema and trying to put it in there. But then, so what I was saying, so pick your first metric. Okay, so if it is in fact race, right, then that's the first metric. But what is it against? And some people are just trying to cool the conversation, cool it, and say, look, you don't want to talk about these things, right? It's against terms of service almost, even on Discord. It's like holy shit. So this idea of race essentialism as a concept is kind of forbidden. But my point was, look, every individual, because I agree with the kind of an general egalitarian belief that that you can weigh a population, but you can't weigh the individual or something like that. But it was more like, based on all the data the internet has on anybody that it's able to gather the data from motion to video to audio to X, Y, and Z, plus genetic data, plus just life factual contextual data, search data, whatever, any of the data, should be able to pull together something like a composite evaluation based on some end metric. Is it trying to help people in this regard? Is it trying to diminish people in another regard? I was talking to my older brother as augmented actor on YouTube tonight. He's up in Seattle. And I was like, come on, man, what you really need to do, Doug, is you need to put bits of you when you're talking about an acting situation. You need to put your own like highlights of you doing what it is you're recommending for actors. And he said, God, I only have like a handful, like 5 things that he can really reference. And I'm like, God, I swear I thought there was more recordings of your time and doing acting, where the stage, the theater is recording the play, and that you would have had access to that, right? But apparently he doesn't have that. And then I was thinking, like, God, maybe my folks have some ancient reels or some reels, some VHS reels of him acting that I might be able to drum up and find and send to him. And yet I will get around to what I get around to when I get around to it. And yet, by saying that, that's almost like saying, you know what, one of the most important, or something that would be really beneficial and sentimental and perhaps even helpful for my older brother, I'm willing to say something as callous as, I'm going to do what I'm going to do regardless. And yet I realize, like, one of the things that makes me like, okay, so I'm actually like, I'm just this big fucking cream puff pussy, right? I mean, not always. I'll fight if I'm pushed to the wall or something. But the point is, I'm not all that brass tacks and the ball of wax. I'm fucking some dude that does what I do, and I don't want to get involved in shit that isn't my business. Isn't even if I have an opinion on it, more so than I want to get involved in shit that is my business. And yet, at sometimes, I'm also like, you know what, Mike, your art production, everything else, it's, what is it for? Is this merely capitalism? Is this only just merely a capitalism that I'm going for? Like, I'm painting this painting under this timeline, in this era, in this year of our Lord, amongst all the other people producing all these variable pieces of art and digital art, and just the craziness, the infinity of human imagination and human talent. There's just so much talent. There's so much talent. Like, even one of my nephews by marriage, that kid is talented at knocking women up, and then after they give birth, from a year to 2 years, he punches them, and then he gets to walk away from them, and then they're left raising his shit out baby. That the first one seemed like he was autistic after it. Then he doesn't want to make the correlation that maybe the kid's autistic because fucking dad just is gone and the kid's waking up to the early morning fact of that, instead of a late life fact of that. And then I'm waking up, and I thought, God, you take someone like a Mendham, right? And it's like, oh God, the guy, as much as he's bitching and moaning, he's got the justified ideas about how he thinks everything, but he weeps at night that the fact that he is in fact alone, right? He keeps himself properly stoned up so he can, just like me or anyone else that's a despot of the ethos or the lack of proper attunement to one's biological fruition in parallel to their work's fruition, left at this fucking bleak loss. And yet it's somehow, it's justified and it's understood. It's even acceptable sometimes. And, and under his point of view, it's praised, it's lauded, it's positive that, Gabe doesn't have kids. I don't have kids. Gary doesn't have kids. Well, maybe I have some kids. It'd sure be nice. This lady was blinking in this bar bathroom, or this waitress that was in my old apartment, or somebody showing up saying, by the way, I'm your 15-year-old son or daughter or something. Would be really interesting if that just like showed up. Well, the Chinese lady in the local bar, that would have been, I think it'd be like a 2-year-old, maybe a 3-year-old kid now if that one hit the mark. But who knows? Like originally when I got the woman pregnant, then I got pregnant, you knew she was pregnant right when you lost her. Right when I had the orgasm, it was just like, fuck, I just know it happened. I felt it. I had another woman confirm this idea on all of her pregnancies, that she knew when she was getting laid which one landed right when it landed. And I thought the phenomenon was interesting to at least argue, like, okay, well, the two of us are sensitive to that because I knew it landed on both the times that it landed for me with the same woman. Anyway, so in this weird parallel, right? Because I was thinking about, okay, now this is going, changing topics a little bit. No, this is more like Piro's relationship to Amendum. But then my 2 abortions and Piro losing his 2 daughters. And I was just like, God, this has just left us as these tall, Caucasioid male humanoids, giving them up for the team, giving it up for the team. Oh, yeah, we'll take one for the team. And, we'll lose a child for each one of them, black, Hispanic, whatever outgroup is that's saying that the white male is the problem. I don't know. I didn't even want to bring that up because, to be honest, all of this bullshit, fucking complete retarded bullshit about these men that are feeling like they're so overly pressed, like, oh yeah, I can't kiss my kid and hug my kid without it being perceived as sexual because the critical feminist thinkers might believe so, and then I'll be this way and that, and TikTok X, Y, and Z. And I actually do like the sentiments. It's just it's a current phenomenon now, and it's not a needed phenomenon for men to push back on their conceived notion of what they think. Actually, they're being pushed upon, as opposed to a wave of just this idea, which is not actually hitting them. They're just responding to the conceptual internet waves, suggesting that there is in fact this way that's entering into the systems, like and I'm a hypocrite and a contradictory guy on this matter as well, in that I want to say that, kind of like I like the idea that the white man got some backlash, because it's kind of like having a wave go over, finally splash over the wave line that has been in the sand, right, for so long. Even, if you lower the wave line from when the water's going out, tide in, tide out, right? And then you still have a wave when the tide's in that goes over what you anticipated, and then it pulls back out and it resettles at a particular new water line or something like that. Anyway, they're part of the reason I love Erica, because I was trying to think, how do you describe how it is you love everyone, right? But in this case, Erica, it's like she has no problem speaking about her take on all sorts of things. Her daughter recently had her period, and she told her daughter that girls and women have access to blood magic, where the men didn't. Or she didn't say where the men didn't, but it was implied that the period in women relative to blood is much more innate in the species, in the sexual difference within the species in that regard. And since there's all this idea still also of witchcraft, and I don't mind it because symbolically I can't actually deny the coincidences when they're performed in a certain function. It's not really an expectation of function. It's the expectation that what is going to come of it is going to be a new lattice of coincidental association that has an echo, and that the echo of the consideration has a purpose. That just merely the echo of a thought consideration has a purpose. But see, and that's how I justify these guys that are acting like they're all like, oh yeah, to be a man, I can't even hold the door for a woman or even call her ma'am because, some young 20s chick is going to tell me that, like, hey, women could do it. So, just drop the door on her fucking face when she's walking halfway through. Or, you don't need to pick up heavy shit for her. As a matter of fact, when she starts to pick it up, you should just like lean on her like she's, a weight stand that you can lean on. Sorry, that's dumb. That's just dumb. Mike, you're just stupid. Mike, you're just saying stupid shit while you're painting. Why don't you talk about what it's like to have actually developed this idea of quirky, twisted sense of artwork? Why it is that in this particular world, this particular piece, this is so important for you to paint this fucking big boob, big butt, brunette, big watermelon brain size. So what? Okay, so get a load of this. This is where I might need your help. I'm back down to 2. Okay, so here's where I might need your help. I was going to paint. Glad she's enjoying the show. I don't even want to call it a show. I was going to paint brains, like a few yellow brains down here, right? Because it would imply not shit for brains. You could almost say, God, she's got shit for brains if I paint brains down below her. But then it was more like, no, she has, because of that big fucking head of hers, so many brains that she shits brains. It's like her whole she's overloaded with brains, so she's got to shit some brains. Right? Isn't that a good idea? Maybe I should put some, like an angel with these humongous, you can't get those tits off the ground with those wings. Lady shitting some shit for brains. And then look at those mushrooms, like almost phallic, like a butt plug. Like this one's the V plug, and this one's the butt plug. See, and I was thinking about even my documentary and what got put in that thing about my Snow White. Like, I don't think about my Snow White only as some lady that's having her brains blown out. Just like this, I mean, being on my wall for so long, like I've thought so many things about it, that the idea that what someone expresses about a thing that you're mistaking is the totality of what their expression is about a thing is, well, it's part asinine. I mean, you don't really know where they're restricted in the artist consideration, but that's why at Northern Arizona State's communication class in 1998, I went and showed my piece called Unzipping the Law of Identity, where X was no longer equaling X, and I didn't even know it was going to lead to a book on contradiction a decade and a half later. But it kind of did. And anyway, the whole idea was to tie an allegory to almost an imagined allegory of existence to an identity of what the painting is that's telling you what the allegory is, right? Such that even the author, even if the author has what they believe is a coherent set of aesthetic symbols, that there can be a group coherence, that there is no expectation of anyone other than them to have or come to conclude that particular view of things, leaving once again the individual entirely as such. And every one of our goddamn individual human genetics yield a human monkey that is absolutely different than any other human monkey that's ever existed. And that we're spirit beings that do what we do and balance and coordinate and hide and tuck ourselves away and content ourselves and make ourselves happy with small bits of please. I'll only want four alcoholic beverages tonight because if I have six, I'll get a hangover in the morning. But I'm actually I do have more than one left. I just need to sit down and feel relaxed enough in front of you good folks watching, you good people, all you good people watching my videos. Sit down and have one of these here beers and dance the night away in a painting that lasts at least 8 fucking hours. Where Andrea's probably wondering when Mike's gonna shut the fuck up in the other room so she can get some sleep and go work at the nutrient feeler factory in the morning like she's supposed to in order to get a beater car as soon as fucking possible. As soon as fucking possible. Okay. So this too must be a wing. In any case, so even bringing up Gabe is a type of confessional, right? Like the guy led me during a very crucial point in my life. I felt guilty stealing technique from a contemporary, and then I got over, and then people were like dropping the links about like, hey, great artists steal and okay artists borrow, or some sort of shit like that. I don't know. In any case, paint. And, you know, hey, what about Bob Ross? Why don't you, Mike, like, why don't you fucking learn some shit about Bob Ross and paint some fucking pretty mountains and some pretty fucking trees right now? Because right now you just look like a belabored jerk off old man monkey that's trying to fucking paint mountains around these mountain sized bazungas. I'm gonna like put in, what do you call it? Like, I was thinking, like, okay, I have some milk squirting out of one of the tits. Like, right at first, I was like, what am I going to do with her other hand? This hand that's on her mouth, right? Like, what am I going to do with that? Let me see. You guys can't see what I'm talking about. Right. So I'm like, okay, what am I going to do with this other mouth? Right. Like that. Right. So I was like, or this other hand, right? And I was like, what? Jesus, let me sit down here. I'll drink a beer. You guys just watch. So see this other hand? Like that wasn't in there until just recently, and it's not refined because I was like, God, what else am I going to do with this other hand? So I thought, well, why don't you have it reaching under and grabbing this tit and like squeezing it, right? And I was like, no, that's too salacious. That's too not really. But there was something just kind of like dumb and flippant and almost naive about this idea of hanging an index finger off of your bottom lip. Like, ta-da. Almost like an indicator that you don't know what the rest of your body's doing. So you're like contemplating with a finger just resting on your bottom lip. Or maybe other people will interpret that process elsewise. I mean, that's the crazy fucking thing, is producing art and then going to a part with several varied people and then hearing other people's interpretations or thoughts, which is actually really rare, but not entirely. Well, it's not. Well, fuck me. People tell me what they think about shit all the time, but people don't coordinate my artwork of symbols back to me better than I do. But sometimes you get someone that champions an alternative interpretation and they tell me what they think, and I think it's, you know, like the bee's knees at that fucking time, because I'm like, well, you want to know what? It's really great that you actually are found some sort of coherent meaning within my own artwork. So that's why I was like, so what do you guys think? Should I paint a butterfly right here with a boner, like she's staring at the butterfly's boner, or should I just keep it nice and innocent? Should I put a wolf here in the background, even though she's got angel wings and a halo? Like, I could really use the idea on this. Oh, like Bolt's just bad typing the shit away. Kombucha, Chancellor, without you on my mind. Hip, hip, not hooray. Kadoo, kadlay. Scooby Dooby, Dooby Day. Great. Now I'm the chancellor. Now, see, so I took Jenny, this lady, this crazed lunatic lady that fucking chases off other women, fights. Can't imagine why she like don't love her the way she loves me because she's so obsessed with me. She's an absolute stalking lunatic who's threatened suicide on herself. And anyway, I before we went up and got my school bus, to which she drove back because I'm illegal to drive any other vehicle that doesn't have a blow device in it. That's right, an alcoholic blow device to measure the alcohol content. She ended up, Jenny, just like me, never being a bus driver before, driving the bus down. And then when the bus started to chug and she had to pull it over, she was so afraid. And when I showed up to the door, I'm like, "Are you okay?" And she's just like, "Oh, yeah, yeah," and kind of like, freaking out. And then I said, "Well, what happened? You push a button, or did a light come on, or what was going on?" And then she's like, "You care more about that bus than you do about me. And how dare you?" And she's always trying to get this line of guilt or this line of measure, this extension into me that she thinks somehow is like a lattice to my soul that I must recognize as she's plotted it, because she just loves me so much. And even my neighbor Jesus is like, Jenny, I like Jenny, you should get Jenny. I'm like, didn't you hear us fight the other night? That fucking lady loses her shit. Even my brother was like, get control of that fucking woman now and stop that, because you got to get some shit done, Mike. And this is when she was losing her goddamn mind. Even when the guy that showed up, like the bus had some problems, and I used some petty cash to pay for this battery swap out, my first lesson in a big rig up in northern Utah. And so this diesel company sent out this guy, and he was out there, and the battery just happens to be out the driver's window of the bus underneath. And while I'm out there trying to learn what it is he's doing and what it is he troubleshooted about the electrical, Jenny is busy throwing cans out of the window, throwing garbage at me, calling me, "You fucking gimp, you're a goddamn asshole, you fucking idiot." She just went through the whole goddamn thing in front of the guy, throwing liquid over this guy's electrical thing. And the guy was totally cool. He's like, "Yeah, man, I've been divorced. And, when people break down, man, there's a lot of stress that happens. So you got to kind of take that." But then Jenny lost her shit that night. And then she lost her shit the next day twice. And by the end of it, I was like, this has got to be the end of this. And Erica was like, "Mike, you know that you should not be tapping into that Jenny energy anymore." And so, anyway, I told Jenny, I said, "I think I met a lady, Christine." And I said, I didn't tell her it was Christine, the lawyer, but I said, "And she's a lawyer. Like, back the fuck up." Because Jenny basically said, "You're going to die alone, and you're going to be miserable, and I'm going to make certain of it." And, just kind of this, kind of like, even if even if I break up with someone, I don't necessarily want to piss on things, but boy, I took Jenny aside that night that she lost her shit the third time, and I just railed into her, and like a Teflon Don, that can suffer, just like fucking Rocky, which is the name of the bus. Rocky. Not Rocky Balboa, but Rocky from Rocky and Bullwinkle. Rocky. But still like Rocky Balboa. This fucking lady got over it and started calling me again. And still wants to hang out and is still absolutely fucking smitten on me. And I have nothing like I have nothing to offer. I don't even want to involve myself in the kind of abuse, but I'm figuring, fuck, if I'm willing to go like jump to another dimension, burn off an engine trying to race and go ghost hunting based on these symbolic esoteric signs and whatnot, then why should I be afraid to be with this absolutely hellbound pathological bitch? And while I was telling this to Erica, and she's like, yeah, God, Mike, that's not good, And Erica reminds me that, she's like, look, the only reason I smoke weed is because it helps me contain myself, control myself, understand myself. And it keeps me from talking badly to myself about myself. And I said, I already get that. I think you've already got that mastered, minus the production of the weed, but I'm not gonna dictate anyway any person one way or the other. But nonetheless, my point was about even mentioning that is that Erica is actually a lovely challenge to my psyche. Even Andrea remains quiet, reserved, introverted, not outspoken. But she talks quite a bit when I get her to talk, but then she doesn't want to talk sometimes. And I'm like, hey, come on, introvert, become an extrovert just because I need it. Okay. Well, so there's the finger. And let's see, she's giving herself the finger. Anyway, so you guys might like the ship for brains idea. I like the ship for brains idea. The angel wings, I don't mind it. I was actually like, that's what inspired. Like, God, if I paint those mountains into angel wings, I better fucking record it. It's too substantial. It's just too goddamn substantial. So what we're gonna do is we're going to do a substantial something just after I have another one of these horse piss filled beers. Ain't nothing like a donkey dick pissing in your beer to make you feel like a real artist when you move to America. When you wake up the lady you're trying to get to buy a car. Ah, fuck it. Going for white. Gonna go for white. Anyway, so I was thinking, so I had this whole go north thing that got me to Montana and the Red Star and all that shit. But then the reinterpreting on True North, this guy, this leprechaun that owns these other buses that helps me with my bus, he says, well, no, True North is just, like, oh, fuck, there goes my beer. Fuck. Shit, there goes my beer. Oh, well, he's like, shit, see, losing the beer might have knocked me off track. And then I think another thing I'm upset with, because obviously I lost track of the last topic, was that there's just this on-running formalism in these philosophical debates, and there's just like some people still get it. Like you can find the people that their whole world's been rocked and they're like bonded, and they get a super spiritual domain because everything else has gone to shit. And then you got the people that have smothered it. So there's no way, even if they have some brief interlude with it, they never speak on it. They don't want to bring it about. And then I get tired of the people that speak on on spiritual guru matters, and I get tired of people that have no extension off of the natural either. It's like it's like a bore, and it's like it's just, I don't know. I don't want to call it a bore. I mean, people have plenty of great shit to say. It's just that if they're on this one topic, it's just like you either get it right. They're either gonna like their god is either gonna be an authorial god read through text, or it's going to be a coincidental inductive God, like a God based on some weird coincidence, and an induction that, all things can be summed up to one. And that one thing has a mind that has a personal relationship with me, or at least a mind in the deistic sense, and that it created the universe. And if not that, then it's the metaphysical naturalist. It's the well, no. That's fuck. Where am I going? See, when you paint, sometimes you get scattered here when I'm trying to paint. But it's just this. It's just this idea. Like, okay, so if you are a theist, it's either just because the Bible says so, because the Bible says to me so, or there's some conjunction with something that's coincidental. With most, very, very, very few, but some have just completely lost their minds, and then God becomes apparent, themselves as a God becomes apparent, the flat earth becomes an arguable and then apparent, and then but these are just people that have lost their shit. Their level of association is broken open like so heavily that it's just like a shuffling card deck. And I mean, actually, people do need to shuffle their deck back together. I mean, ultimately, like, of all the experience that you know of, no one else has gathered what you've gathered, so just know that you fucking gathered it, and then shuffle it in a fucking deck and get the stack put together, right? But then there's the theists like me that don't say there's some omni god that's necessarily greater than me, but that whatever that fucking orb and the red star and even the influence and the jump off the roof, but mostly the orb and the red star as evidence of the supernatural, like piercing this reality in a miracle, a miraculous sense. I don't give a fuck if anyone wants to call me crazy or deny it, or it doesn't matter. I don't expect anyone to know. But the point is there's a class of theists that base their theism on all sorts of things. And then you got the sci-fi philosophers then mix in like, hey, might all be in a matrix, and which you can get along with a bunch of this shit. Or, hey, it's like lizard aliens that are trying to control Earth, and there's 3 of them, or some movie that's coming out now about like Guardian. Maybe it's not like Guardian of the Galaxy. I don't know what the fuck it's like exactly, but it's like something like the weirdness that people are experiencing has to do with transport of alien terrestrial aliens. Where my God concept evidence, not with the omnis, just with the, whatever that was that got me to Montana and possessed my mind and allowed me to interpret the world in the fashion that I'm now. Basically, I've been trying to diagram on this last trip before I got the bus some of the associations. I was like, God, people don't actually know how it is I'm associating these things, so they don't know even what to look out for. So I was like, well, let's start writing these down while they're occurring so that you can convey them. I don't have the booklet in front of me now, and I'm sure it's not extensive, but the point is that I'm just a different brand. These are the different brands of theists that don't necessarily require an omni god or some sort of logically extensive god or some sort of biblically interpreted God. I mean, it can be projected into all those things, into any description of anybody else's claims of supernatural or otherworldly piercing or whatnot. Anyway, point being still, that even in my own, I still don't know what exactly it was, but I'd say whatever it was eclipsed me enough so it didn't have to be omni knowing. It just had to eclipse my knowledge entirely. And it hence then qualified as omni knowing in my mind. It couldn't have been tested it couldn't have been experienced in relationship to anyone else for me to make any other possible conclusion, although I speculate that with what happened to me happened to anyone else, they would have been entirely slavish to it as well. But then I also thought because I jumped off of a roof, because I was willing to give up the formal notion of gravity, the debate on what gravity is, and just simply deny it. Like, oh, it's a pressure system. Oh, it's a magnetic field. Oh no, it's a relationship to orbit and movement, X, Y, and Z. Um, all it was like, hey, this has got to happen, and somehow then, after the nursing home, after healing, then I was granted, or possessed, or brought, or allowed, or made in tune with this thing that once again, and not to talk like I'm fucking out of my loony mind just because I am, but I'm pretty certain that even though I own the bus and I'm not going to be able to drive the bus because I don't want to get an interlock alcohol device in it, that what I would like to do is just drive up to Glacier National Park in northern Montana very soon and go on a meditation, because the one thing that seems very like through induction is that whatever these things are, at least to me, they don't want a heavy audience. And so I have to clear myself and maybe clear the space and enter the space and enter it more openly than I have before in order to re-allow it to happen. It's almost like, and it's an imperative, like something about saving the soul of humanity or saving something comes along with some sort of download or connection or spotting or language orientation relative to whatever this invisible series of entities or entity might be. Even today, it's almost every day there's something that goes on that seems not unexplainable, just spiritually interpretable as intended to me. Okay, where am I at time wise? I must be closing down shop soon. Oh, where am I at in these comments? Apparently, I'm supposed to click a button. Do not go into the wild. Oh, okay, do not go into the wild, she says. You should worship it, and also it needs money. So you gotta grant that. Oh, let's see. Pierre jumping in on that one. And oh, right. As far as women are concerned, it's even like these young women. They're like offering themselves to me like prostitutes, and I thought, God, I think they actually like it's one of the crucibles or one of the things, kind of like a pretty woman thing. Like, how much is this guy willing to spend on me and give me just to be with me? Is the guy actually serious, or isn't he? And it's almost like the prohibition against prostitution had to do more like, well, we just don't want romance to involve money transactions before you're married, something like that. I don't know exactly how to make that shit, man. That's like a fucking dozen stickers that my beer got thrown on. Okay, so even those wings kind of suck that I painted. I like looking in the back, but okay, so I definitely have to design that better. The halo's not bad though. It's not shit. And then for shit for brains, she doesn't have shit for brains because you look at that little, she got this, see right there coming out of her forehead, that cloud up there. It's like a laser. I was like, okay, do some choreographed thing in the background that looks like a. Anyway, I'm fucking done, guys. I'm just fucking done. What am I gonna do? Do not Do not go into the wild. It was one evening. You're gonna be okay. No, no, I know. Like all these things, like there's plenty more accentuated periods of time, and my compass and orientation has been totally spun and rehijacked and reapproached to the point where even painting mere capitals, I was telling my dad, I said, look, Dad, even if I take this bus, right, which requires more maintenance, even if I have to haul an item from where I am to wherever I'm going in order to pay for possible maintenance costs on this fucking bus that I got, maybe I could, I'm always losing the topic. It's because I'm using this damn cannabis too much. Let me celebrate this for a moment. I actually feel like I'm overly nervous trying to tell stories. Like I have to cram them in or something. Well, where was I? Do not go into the wild. Oh, see, I told you. It's just like I said at the beginning of the video. Within the first 5 minutes, something about the cannabis or something about whatever it is about me when I'm smoking cannabis keeps me from remembering the middle topic that you use as the sub story in a longer complex of dialogue. And yeah, if I bring it up and then I don't bring it back, then it's a fucking loss. I look like I'm brain dead. And maybe that's the karma for bringing up shit for brains on Miss Bitty Boombox Mona Lisa here that I'm painting. I don't know, guys. All I do know is that, you're not going to get this kind of talk from any other channel on YouTube. So, subscribe and hit the bell and ring my bells and buttons and tell me what it is that you love about the lewd, pretty, semi-innocent angels or not. If you don't want to tell me what it is that you're thinking, you don't have to. But if you want to comment, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Okay, I got to say this. Because this was one very, like a ratifying ultimatum to myself relative to Erica. Because I was still like, God, I'm getting along with these older women from the neck up, even though the younger women are the ones that I'm like drawn to for biological reproduction sake and general youth appeal. But Erica, well, she's willing to talk about all these topics. B, she's not even opposed to the idea. She said, well, to be with me doesn't mean that you're not going to be the baby daddy of somebody else. But then when she was asking me if I was mentioning certain things for her to be jealous, and I was saying no about the other woman in the park, just that I wanted to, tell her about what the fuck's up, right? Because I was explaining to Andrew, I was like, well, you know what? I have HPV. I have a benign version of HPV. And when you get to fucking people in the raw, occasionally you're slopping some juices around, and that's one of them. And I thought, well, and so I was explaining to her, like, well, none of the women over the decades developed anything. And I was actually taking feedback from them. And some of them, there was no catching anything. There's only one woman that absolutely freaked out. And the reason I know it was benign HPV is because a woman said, you know what? You gave me benign HPV because my doctor told me da-da-da. And I'm like, oh, well, that's part of the reason why I was like, okay to not tell you is because it's benign. And that was kind of this moral workaround that was still allowing me to be this disease passing motherfucking Oh, okay. So I'm really proud. I'm really proud. Like without any uppers or anything. At my age, it was great because I got up twice with Eric. I was just bringing home the bacon, bada boom, bada boom, bada boom, and it was perfectly. It was just great, and I was upset because up until that date, neither of us had given the other one an orgasm. Why am I telling you guys this? Because there's tits involved. Tits McGee. Oh, this is a whole other fucking story. Showing some lady. So I go into this camper world, right? Camper world is for motorhomes. And since I'm thinking of, working on a bus, I wanted to, a pot to piss in and some other shit. And I was like, okay, so go to this fucking camper world. And I go around a corner and there is this long brunetted lady on her knees putting something on the shelf. And I made some comment about how I paint people before I meet them. And that she looks like this painting, and I said, but I don't know if I should show you it because it's a little offensive. And then I walked around her and I saw she had a tattoo, and I just assumed that tattoos, even though this is a wrong inference, are most almost 90% of the time given to people only 18 and above. Well, this is a misread. But and I said this has nothing for her. I think she was probably 25, 26. I said, "Look, you have a tattoo. I think you could probably handle this. Do you want to see it?" And she says, "Yeah." So she looks at it, and it's this painting. And then she says, "Oh," and I said, "Okay, well, that's cool." And I walk on my way, and I'm taking down further notes on different this and that's that I want for this, like a deep cycle battery or some other, something or another that seems like a mobile unit, a fiction something to do with in anyway. And then the manager, this lady who I had earlier saw, and I said, "Oh, what's the name of this place?" And she had Camper World on her. Camper World. So she walked by, said Camper World. Then I talked to this other lady that looked like this painting without the mega big pits and whatever. You get it. But it looked similar enough. Anyway, and then the manager comes over and says, "You know what? Did you just show one of my employees a photo with something obscene?" And I said, "Well, yeah." "Well, I think you should really go." And I said, you know what? She allowed me. Like I asked. "Well, I really think you need to go and just take that and get it." And I just like, fuck, whatever. I was gonna buy a cooler for beer because you guys know how much I love my beer. For $10, a 12-pack of beer cooler. I couldn't believe it. It was a hell of a sale. But I just left it on the counter like a champ and walked outside, and I got in my car and I sat there while three other unseen employees walked out. And I thought maybe they're walking out because I'm there, but I figured, I can't say that. But in any case, it didn't fucking matter. I got my blow device going and I drove off with like a big, like, you know what? Fuck you guys at Camper World. If your employees are too bound up in the socio-cultural non-offense or non-agreement to actually interact with other humans on a human level. But it was one of these higher end of town, like Richard's a little snootier, a little cleaner sort of group of people. So it's not as rough and tough as the inner city, the deep inner city, the rough meth jungle of Salt Lake City. I almost wanted to make it clear to 3 hours, a whole 3 hours. Oh. Hey, guys. Oh, see, love, love, love. Oh, yeah, yeah. So I was explaining to somebody because old Phoenix is just throwing around. We met my brother. He's like, I love you, bro. You're really good. I love you. I love you. I just love you, man. First time he met him, I was like, my brother was like looking at me and then looking at him like, what the fuck is this? And I'm like, don't worry about it. And then I had to explain to old Phoenix. I said, "Look, Phoenix, in my family, we don't just like throw the love word around willy nilly whenever. It's like it's a rare, very rare, more sacred thing. I'm not saying you can't. I mean, do what you want, but just realize like that's not where we're at. So I don't give a you're not going to expect some karmic loving echo because you're going to spitball you love people that you goddamn good and well know that you're only talking about like the most surface level of human agreement when you're talking about loving a stranger. Hence, you're part full of shit because you think you're enlightened to love. But in this particular case, I love my audience too. We love ya boat lightning. Then again, you're one of the roughest, toughest wolf pack handlers, disgruntled, pissed off, doesn't know what to do. And then I thought, God, like there's all these lonely moms, and then there's all these lonely people, and then there's all these lonely dads, and then there's just all these people. And it's odd because I'm not lonely. Like Andrea's, she suffers because look how she doesn't get a hug or she doesn't get to touch people. Or she's upset. And I'm like, a lot of the time I like to touch people, but the majority of the time I like to just be. And I'm like, God, I actually started to get along once again with the beauty of whatever the fuck the God ordained or the graceless ordainment of whatever the fuck life I'm living in right now has come up with for me. Makes me feel like happy and gracious and graceless and pointless and purposeless and devolving myself into other people's X, Y, and Z's for no good reason. And ultimately, I mean, I think it does just come down to kind of do what you want, have general respect. Don't, I don't know. I generally don't hurt people, even though, like, psychologically, it's like that was the thing. I realize that if I want to psychologically hurt somebody, I think I can probably do it. Like if I really put my mind to it, I think I can lay down some pretty heavy shit. But you don't really want to fuck A with a lawyer, B with a group of people that are overpowering you in a population. And for the most part, I'm not all about that type of shit anyway. I'm just noticing. So, what to say about art? What to say about Gabe Leonara, Jimmy Hersiak, and Phoenix Falcon. And one day I would love to show you, and I think I have already, all of the artists, all the beautiful artists. Michelle McCune, and well, I don't know the names on the tip of my tongue, so I'd screw them up. Both men and women, artists who might collect. That being said, shit, I'm already 2 minutes over my 3-minute marker. Therefore, I am going to end the show with a "We love you, Das." Congratulations to me, and thank you, everyone, for liking and subscribing to the boobies on your screen and to this megalithic, masculine, metro, but tough guy, weirdism, whatever this is, me, and make certain that I've influenced the inner you and the political you and the part of you that likes to both send me everything that you